I want to start with asking the panelists to introduce themselves. But before I do, I want to make sure we're all clear on kind of how we want this to work. I have a bunch of questions that I will lead the panelists through in a conversation. But I want to give you all the opportunity to ask any questions that you have. And the best way to do that is to use the chat window and to input your questions as we go. We'll make sure that we collect those questions. Kelly will pass those on to me and we'll cover those as best we can in the time allotted. So without further ado, and also recognizing that it looks like we may have lost one of our panelists in keeping with the unpredictability of our 2020 world. Cindy Davis looks like maybe she was bounced off due to technological issues. We will get her back. But in the meantime, if I could ask Kim and Mark to quickly introduce themselves to you. We can start with Kim.
Thank you. I'm Kim Lopdrup, William & Mary BBA from 1980. I'm currently CEO of Red Lobster, but my real claim to fame is that my first job was for one of Mark's brands. My first job was on Folgers Coffee as assistant brand manager, and William & Mary's placement office helped make that connection, but that was just a fantastic way to start a career. And my second job was as product manager for coffee on Dunkin' Donuts, and my first assignment there was to introduce Dunkin' Decaf, and we chose Folgers to actually manufacture it. So Mark wisely ended up buying taking over both those brands as part of the amazing portfolio he's built. But that's, anyway, it was a wonderful start to my career.
That's great, Kim. Thank you. And I'm sure Mark has you to thank for the premium he had to pay for those brands. So thank you, Kim. Really happy to have you here. Mark, quick introduction, please.
Yeah, hi. Really happy to be here, Matt and Dean Pulley. I think we may have lost Dean Pulley, but appreciate you guys having us, and Kim. And I know Cindy's not on, but just really special to spend this little bit of time with you all. I'm Mark Smucker. I graduated in '92. I actually got a degree in geology from William & Mary, not a business degree, if you can believe that. And I think the geology department with Professor McDonald is still one of the small and mighty departments there, but I did study quite a bit in the business school. Went on to do my MBA elsewhere, but I worked for Leo Burnett in Argentina for a couple of years before joining the family business. I was an expatriate for 9 years in Argentina, Brazil, and Canada. Our company, as you may know, consists primarily of 3 large categories in North America: pet food, with brands like Milk-Bone, Rachel Ray Nutrish, Meow Mix, and others. As Kim pointed out, Folgers, Dunkin' Donuts, Cafe Bustelo would be our coffee business, and then our namesake peanut butter and jelly business of Smucker's, Smucker's jams and jellies, Jif peanut butter, and the frozen Uncrustable sandwiches. So really happy to be here and look forward to speaking with you, all of you.
That's great, Mark. Thank you. We are so lucky to have both of you guys here. And thanks again for doing it. So let's just jump in. And I want to start with the elephant in the room, right? So all our lives have been turned upside down by the COVID-19 crisis. Can you tell us how your company and you have changed your marketing approaches to adjust to this historic disruption? Kim, let's start with you.
Sure. So Red Lobster has historically run limited time only events like Lobster Fest, Crab Fest, and Endless Shrimp. And the trouble is those kind of events take a tremendous amount of upfront planning. You have to buy massive quantities for the ingredients on whatever plate you plan to feature. You have to buy huge amounts of media upfront. And unfortunately, when COVID broke out and we found ourselves having to at one point close all of our dining rooms, at one point closing up to 45% of our restaurants altogether, it just became impossible to make these projections and these commitments that far out into the future. So we literally stopped running our typical limited time only events. Meanwhile, we had to make these very rapid and dramatic pivots to meet emerging guest needs for safety, guest needs for off-premise, and we made very, very rapid changes and started marketing the changes and how we were meeting consumer needs in real time, focusing on things like delivery or curbside pickup or family meal deals and things like that. That's actually worked well, but we focus on things that are permanent changes and that are real news to meet consumer needs in real time.
Very interesting in terms of, especially in terms of long lead times and the operational challenges and where operations and marketing come together. It's so tough in a business like yours, and it's got to be similar, Mark, for you. What have you and your company? How have you changed your marketing to adjust to these unique times?
Our industry is pretty unique because obviously we have the responsibility to supply a safe and consistent supply of food to the nation. Our business is largely U.S. and Canada, and so making sure that we can just have the supply chain has to work. And so our business has actually enjoyed significant growth during the pandemic. What we have seen is consumers are returning to familiar, trusted, comfort brands. And so our business has done very well. We've seen about an 8% increase in retail sales. Our e-commerce business has grown about 70%. And so what's changed is we actually made a huge push in marketing and advertising in the prior year, essentially developing 10 new advertising campaigns for 10 brands. They were great, but a couple of them had apocalypse themes. So we had a Jif peanut butter advertisement that ran on both digital and television that had sort of an alien end of the world theme. We had a zombie apocalypse theme for our Dunkin' Donuts coffee, and we actually chose to take those off air, particularly at the beginning of the pandemic, feeling that they might be misinterpreted. So clearly, it has changed everything. We do find ourselves focusing very hard on the consumers that have come back to these brands and trying to make sure that if they've rediscovered a brand that they may have forgotten, that we can engage consumers through digital and really maintain them in our brand franchise.
It's really interesting. Thank you, Mark. And I see that Cindy Davis has rejoined us. Welcome back, Cindy. She was here before the call started, and then right at the wrong time, she went away. So I'm delighted.
Yeah. So, hello everyone. Cindy Davis here, Chief Brand Officer of Bed Bath & Beyond. This is a brand new role for me. I'm in month 5. And one of my first times here in New Jersey in the home office, and the internet just shut down while I was waiting for this call to start. So when in doubt, your personal phone can be your hotspot. I've got my iPhone actually allowing me to participate in Zoom. So hopefully, fingers crossed, things will work. I was able to hear everything that you were saying, and thank you, Dean Pulley, for the opportunity to speak with the students today and alumni. I heard your question, Matt, and responses from our other panelists, and I just add to, boy, as a retailer, what a crazy time. Obviously, the beginning of the pandemic, our focus was entirely on the safety of our associates, and then as we reopened stores, our customers. But I thought one insight would be interesting for the participants today. Once we got our stores back up and running, thanks to the local communities that we serve around July, we were ready to head straight into back to college season, which for Bed Bath & Beyond, right, is an important time of year for us. Many of us had our first maybe our first experience with Bed Bath, shopping with their parents to send everything and get everything you needed for college. We had a great plan. Obviously, we were listening, daily to the announcements about which schools were opening, which schools were closing, and synced up all of our execution in store to those school openings. But we were probably about a month in to the back to college season, and we were hearing from our customers, parents and students alike, that as they learned that their schools, their universities were only going to be starting virtually, how disappointed they were. Disappointed that yet another milestone for that college senior, incoming freshman, was going to be missed. They'd already missed graduation, they'd already missed prom, and now they weren't going to have that experience of back to college. So we quickly pivoted, like marketers do, and got with our decorous online design team, and we came up with some designs to inspire students who were starting their college year virtually to turn their high school bedroom into their own college from home room. So super excited about how fast we were able to do it. Oh, thank you, Kelly. And a little show and tell for you. We were overwhelmed by the response. And it just goes to show, Matt, the power of a relevant, timely idea and a team that can pivot. One of the most successful things we did, and really saved a lot of parents and students from missing out on the opportunity to turn that high school bedroom into a real college from home experience.
What a cool thing. There are kind of unifying themes going on in everything you all are talking about, which is this interesting combination of the need for innovation and creativity, the need to rely on whatever kind of enduring brand value you have, because these are the times when you need to fall back on that, but also the need for nimbleness and quick changes and being able to adjust quickly in an incredibly unpredictable and dynamic environment. It's a really interesting time. What has been, and let me ask you this, Kim, what's been the biggest surprise to you and the folks at Red Lobster as you've dealt with this time in the marketing world?
Well, certainly COVID-19 itself was a surprise, but I've been very surprised and impressed with how our organization has been able to just become dramatically more nimble, pivot very rapidly, we frankly are going to come out of this with a far more efficient business model than we had going in. I think we've really learned how to move much faster than we ever have before. One of the big surprises is how well working remotely works. We've had our restaurant support center closed for 6 months now, and I initially thought that was going to be a challenge. Fortunately, we had already made it so people could work remotely 1 day a week, so we had the infrastructure set up. But then we had to rely on it full time. And I've been amazed at, I can talk to every restaurant in our system from my basement, via Zoom or Microsoft Teams. And when you do it that way, you no longer have to wait for somebody to be back in the office to have the big meeting. I mean, there's no delays anymore. And interestingly, we did an employee survey. Employees are so happy with working remotely that 71% said they would prefer to continue working remotely once the pandemic is over, and would be willing to give up a dedicated office in order to be able to do so. We are looking at some pretty radical ideas with shared office space and things like that to give employees what they want. But honestly, it is working better. We are much faster than we used to be. I think the question is still, once this is over, how effective is this when you have to integrate new employees and they can't just walk down the hall and things like that? I think it's working well now because everybody knows each other really well. But I think that's the major open question, but it's worked far, far better than I would have expected.
That's really interesting. I want to hold that thought because I want to come back to a discussion of the things that unexpectedly changed in the world that we live in that you think may stay over a long period of time because you're learning something about your organization or your marketing group that you maybe hadn't known before. So, but Mark, tell us what's been your biggest surprise out of all this?
Well, first of all, I would echo everything that Kim said. I think one of the most positive surprises is it forced us to be agile, and it shed light on a myriad of things that we were doing that we don't need to be doing. And so allowing us to be that much more efficient, and this notion that given that we are unique and that our business is doing well, it gives us the cover to make the changes that we need to be even more efficient and stronger after we come out of it. I would say the other thing that surprised us is that how quickly e-commerce, our business shifted to e-commerce. So before the pandemic, in aggregate, we were about 3% of our business was sold online. Pet and coffee being the fastest growing, we basically gained about 5 years of growth on e-commerce in 6 months. So about 12% of our business today is online. And so it's a double-edged sword. It's both good and bad because it's good because it allows us to engage individually and directly with many consumers, but it's a challenge because that model, as we all know, is somewhat less profitable than the brick and mortar model. So working to improve the profitability of the business as we're engaging with those consumers is really something we're focused on going forward.
All right, terrific. Thanks. Cindy, what about you? Bed Bath & Beyond, what have been the biggest surprises at your place?
Yeah, I think I build on Mark's point. So when the pandemic started, it might surprise you to know that Bed Bath & Beyond was a retailer that did not have buy online, pick up in store, did not have curbside pickup. And as our business shifted, we had to make a decision to accelerate the services that our customers needed, but also, to Mark's point, to be able to fulfill and potentially demand shape some of that digital demand that, if it is shipped from fulfillment center, obviously is significantly more expensive. We've been super pleased with the response because we have buy online, pick up in store in all of our stores as of, I think, the middle of July. Contactless curbside pickup in all of our stores during that same time frame, and just last week announced same-day delivery. And those three services are already more than 15% of our digital sales. So the financial one, we're serving customers, right, in the way they want to be served. If they want to come in the store, they can. If they want to buy online, they can, but they can pick it up right away and not have to be worried about the package not getting to them when they need it. But financially, to Mark's point, it's also helped us, right, from a gross margin standpoint, because the cost of buy online, pick up in stores, same day delivery, or curbsideless pickup is basically the same cost as an in-store sale. There's no incremental digital expense to fulfilling those digital orders when they come in stores. And given the size of our physical store footprint, that's a real advantage to us versus some of the home stores that are online only retailers.
That's terrific. It's something that, as we look across the retail landscape, the ability to quickly move toward e-commerce and touchless pickup it's amazing what it's done for those companies like yours who were able to do it. I want to go back and pick up on a point that Kim made and that I promised I would pick up, which is there are some interesting and surprising enduring long-term effects of this. There are things that coming out of this crisis and this disruption may never change, may never go back. When you all think about the things that fall into that category in your business, what do you see? Let me start with you, Mark.
You mean in terms of of what specifically?
In terms of the way you manage your marketing efforts, the way you manage your organization, the way you see consumers behaving, anything that you think may have shifted because of COVID-19, but may never shift back, that could affect your marketing decisions.
Yeah, I mean, I highlighted the e-commerce dynamic, and in our case, you know, our largest e-commerce customers would be obviously Amazon, Walmart.com, but also Chewy.com as the leading pet online retailer. Just how we continue to manage the relationships with those customers and making sure that we continue to, they're very much data driven. And even the brick and mortar retailers, I know Cindy and Kim can both attest to this, data is king these days. And we need good data to understand who our consumers are, who the quote tribes, pun intended, are, that we need to address. I do expect, what's interesting is the bifurcation between targeted marketing versus mass media, mass marketing. We actually still view that mass marketing, i.e. television, still does play a role in the future, particularly when you're dealing with large brands like the three of us are all dealing with. There is an argument that reach is still critical. And so for certain marketing efforts, you do need mass media, but the acceleration and the need to target tribes, if you will, has just been exacerbated by the pandemic.
That's it. That's really interesting. Kim, I saw you nodding your head. Have you all had the same or similar experience?
Well, yes, and we've done some regression analyses that prove Mark's point. For example, digital is actually more effective when accompanied by TV that creates depth of sale, and then the digital reminds people of the television message they saw. So you're correct. There's a synergistic effect where they make, particularly TV makes digital more effective. But in terms of permanent changes, your original question, I think they're just huge. One is we were already working towards growing our off-premise business. We had tripled it in the 2 years before the pandemic, but we've tripled it again since the pandemic started with delivery. Now we're rolling out Rapid Red curbside pickup, so you're able to order and pay ahead of time in your app. You know what time to come. We meet you outside the restaurant and hand you your food, and you drive off without ever getting out of your car. It actually is less time at the restaurant than if you go through a McDonald's drive-through, is what we're rolling out right now. The technology, it's all got to be, we were already working on making it seamless. So it's, Amazon easy, but frankly, what's seamless is also touchless. The current environment is everything has to be touchless. So fortunately, those initiatives really fit well together with what we were already working on. And to Mark's point about data, that is of huge importance. And the pandemic has really been helping us as it's been in terms of getting data. Because when people order online, we're able to capture their information. We're able to sign them up for our loyalty program, which is My Red Lobster Rewards, which has been very effective. We find once people sign up, we get 24% more business from them and do it profitably. And by the way, it's just been a real lifeline during this period where we had pulled off of TV. We were able to communicate very effectively to our loyal users through My Red Lobster Rewards. But so we're also, as people pay at the table, we have Presto devices on the table. We're also able to enroll them that way and capture their information. So we've made really incredible progress building our database and then segmenting the database. You're able to start sending targeted messages. So I agree with everything Mark said, but I think a real key point though is, and Mark said it, but like I say, we've seen it with regression analysis. There is a mix. You are best off with a combination of some television on top of all the targeted messaging, without question.
That's great. Thank you, Kim. Cindy, what about you? Have you seen any changes that you think are going to become permanent ways of doing business?
I think one of the things that would be that we've seen and been really digging into here, and agree with everyone about the data, importance of data. We've been digging really into the new customers that we have acquired since the crisis started. And I think if you guys probably saw in our second quarter earnings, we'd added millions of new customers to the business since we started. I think our digital growth was 90% in second quarter. So lots and lots of new customers added. And when we dig in, what we find out is over 40% of those customers are new to our brand, not just new to online. So brand new customers for Bed Bath & Beyond. People who have shopped with us for the very first time in second quarter. And what we found out about those customers is they're changing the shape of our overall customer profile, because they're on average about 6 years younger than our, whoa, sorry about that, folks.
You have to move around more, wave your arms more. Cindy, we have exactly that problem at the Mason School, just so you know. You're sitting at your desk reading papers, and then you just have to go like this to keep the lights on. So.
Boy, I've had some technology challenges. Thanks for the patience and the grace here. Anyway, our new customers are younger than our existing customers, so we need to think really differently about how we're going to serve them. They are less likely to use a coupon, and the big blue coupon is something our brand is known for, but these folks actually are more likely to pay full price, something like 20% more likely. And so we've really spent some time thinking about, from a targeted standpoint, how are we going to nurture and develop these customers into the loyal, profitable customers that we'd like to have. They're shopping the same categories, core categories, bed, bath, and kitchen. But we're finding out that categories like home decor are even more important to these brand new customers. So we feel like these new customers are going to be a real asset for us moving forward. And secondly, Matt, we had over 2 million customers who used to only shop us in stores, now shopping us online too, right? So these are omni-channel customers who I'm sure in all of our businesses are our most valuable, right? They shop us 3 times more often, they spend twice as much in a year. So we've got new groups of customers that we need to nurture relationships with, and they're really going to be dividends for the future.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting. I want to talk about, you've talked about, all of you have talked about the need for nimbleness and flexibility and being able to react quickly to incredibly dynamic circumstances and situations. How do you think this is going to change, or how has it changed your and your team's effect to long-term strategic plannings in your marketing department or with your brands? Mark, let's start with you on that.
Yeah, Matt, thank you. I think we've all touched on this notion of agility and how we go to market. I think one of the things that we had been struggling with pre-pandemic was we had too many agencies. We had too many agency partners. We were very slow to get creative out there, and we made a very concerted effort to refine our first and foremost our internal organizational structure around marketing, and try to strengthen some of the capabilities, digital being one, PR. We brought some creative in-house, but we also rebid all of our agency work. We ended up consolidating it with a single holding company, which in our case is Publicis. And what that allowed us to do is have access to the best talent across their entire network, not within one agency. And we were able to by organizing our internal centers of expertise around each business, and similarly asking publicists to do the same thing, we actually were able to cut the time from creative development to launch at least in half, if not more. And so that has, I'm very grateful. I think it was I would say it's probably more luck than foresight that we did that pre-pandemic, because it truly allowed us to flex and adapt throughout the pandemic and address, for example, we had some quirky Folgers advertising on TV that was all new. And then as we shifted into the pandemic, we were able to, in a period of about 6 to 8 weeks, get new creative out there, which is actually, it's all based around the Zoom call. And I'm actually wearing shorts today, but in the Zoom call that you may have seen on television, the guy is wearing a suit like Kim is, but he's wearing his boxers. So we tried to adapt, and it allowed us to adapt and be relevant in today's culture very quickly.
That's great. Thank you. Kim, how about you? How do you think about long-term planning in this kind of environment?
So we used to have annual business plans and 5-year plans. Right now we're doing quarterly plans. And the truth is we're running the equivalent of a 2-minute offense for a football team. And there have been ideas that we have seen and actually been able to action. I mean, just in a few weeks, way less than a quarter. We're really running a 2-minute offense right now, trying to react in real time to whatever's happening. And it's actually been working out pretty well.
Yeah, the definition of long-term has, I think, changed forever. That may be one of the permanent changes. Cindy, how about you all at Bed Bath & Beyond?
I think two things. One, the key for us is staying closer to the customer. I just think for all of us, being really close to the customer in all the ways that we can. We launched a new partnership with Google. We have a partnership, I was just on a call with Pinterest, to get more in tune with real-time insights, even beyond our own internal research department, which is pretty robust, so that we see what's coming and see the changes in customer behavior and can pivot with whatever contingencies we need. We've got a huge, holiday is a very important time of year for us as a retailer, and we have, a great, strong plan, which we locked and loaded for holiday, and now we're working on plan B, right? What are our contingencies going to be? What with our partnership with Pinterest and Google, what do we see happening that we need to have contingencies planned for? I don't think that's ever going to go away. I think the speed of the business, just if it's possible, just got crazier in retail. Luckily, we love it. I love it. So that pace is good for us. And the other thing I'd say it's the bar has raised, I think, Matt, for us in terms of not just providing value and not just making it easy for our customers to shop with us, but really providing inspiration. During this time when, since the pandemic started, home's really been the center of our customers' lives, right? And now more than ever, we're all walking through the kitchen and seeing, a pan that we need to replace or a comforter on our bed that we wish wasn't as faded. And that's good news, right, for our business. But with that comes a requirement to really inspire the customer through digital channels that I don't think we're all doing a great job of yet. And so we've really been leaning into storytelling in our digital channels so that we're not just selling her the items that she wants for their home, but we're providing her ideas, right, to make her home the haven that she wants it to be for her family and friends. Really pushing hard on our agency partners, as Mark mentioned, in the social and digital space to help us accelerate and really raise the bar in that inspiration. We launched our first full funnel campaign on Pinterest, right, for holiday, right? We've always been a really, really strong performance marketer, but now we're inspiring her at the top, middle, and the bottom of the funnel. And we're really excited about what direction that's taking us. And frankly, it's fun, right? The inspiration part of the business, right, can be some of the most creative. So excited about that. And I think that's here to stay.
That's great. Well, hopefully fun is here to stay. I mean, this is supposed to be fun, at least on some level, right? I want to go to a couple of questions we've gotten. And clearly there are some students on the line here, because one of the questions is, in what ways do you all believe our students who are interested in marketing careers, how do they need to adapt to the changing landscape? Kim, how about you?
Sure. Obviously we're in a world where things are just changing faster than ever. And, I think one of the things you have to, I'll just tell you, when I was graduating from William and Mary, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I wasn't really as confident as I became later. And part of it was, I think in school, you have this notion that you have to get an A all the time and you have to get 100 on everything, and therefore you can't make mistakes. The reality is, if you're not willing to take some risks and make some mistakes, you're never gonna, you actually will not succeed. You will never be out in front. You will never be able to hit a home run if you're afraid of striking out. And, one of the things I would encourage students to do is quit thinking you have to get 100, and think about what it is about what it takes to win. And when you swing for the fences, you're not gonna have a 100% success rate, but you're probably gonna wind up way, way, way ahead of people who are really conservative and never take any responsible risks. The second thing I'd just say to students is, I think the number one most important thing is to choose a career and a job you can be truly passionate about. Everybody is going to have setbacks along the way. Everybody is going to have colossal challenges along the way. The only way you are going to get through those things is if you are incredibly passionate about what you are doing and believe that it is incredibly important, not just to you, but to the world, that you are successful in whatever you are doing. I remember back when I was a student, I'd look at the flat hat and look at the starting salaries in different fields, and I'd sweat over minor differences in offers. And that was idiotic. I wind up, making literally over 100 times what those starting salaries were. They were irrelevant. What matters is getting on the right path to what will help you be all you can be in life. And that is very likely to be what you can get most passionate about. Somebody who's truly passionate about something will be the best in the world at it. But if you're not passionate about it, you're going to be mediocre. And if you're mediocre, you're not going to do well, even financially, let alone be happy. Number one thing is focus on what you can get passionate about in life. That's my number one piece of advice for students.
Thanks, Kim. Mark, what about you? What advice do you have for students who are interested in marketing?
Kim gave solid advice. I agree with that. You have to do something you love. In my own case, it's, I was a science geek. I loved music. That's what I'm sitting in my music studio here at home. So I do that on the side. But what I really realized that I was passionate about when I did, it took me probably about 7 or 8 years of being in a family business. We're a publicly traded company. The family has a very small portion these days of the shares. But my realization was a love of the brands and a love of the people. And so Kim is right. You have to be passionate about what you do. I would add that you've got to be passionate about the people that you work with. You need to feel, you need to be with folks that are not necessarily like you, but that you respect and love. And I think that's really important. And, you know, if you, that lends itself to being passionate about the culture of the company where you work. And then the last thing I would just say is travel. Having spent 9 years as an expatriate, it was the most fascinating years of my life. My wife was also an expatriate. And particularly in this day and age, when nations seem to be even more insular and globalization is actually on the demise when it should be the opposite, we need people that understand the global economy and can help build bridges between cultures. Because we're far too focused on ourselves, we're far too focused on our individual nations, and we need to be thinking more as global citizens. So I would encourage folks, particularly, you know, before you get locked into a career, see the world if you haven't done that already.
Thanks, Mark. Sounds like good advice for all of us. Cindy, how about you? What advice do you have for students who are looking for marketing positions?
Kim, you're taking me back to my days at William & Mary, and I could not reinforce more what you said about passion. Dean Pulley has heard me say this before. I came to William & Mary destined to be an accounting major. I wanted to get my CPA, go to law school, and for some crazy reason be a tax attorney. No offense to any tax attorneys on the call today. About first semester senior year, I took a marketing class and fell in love. And I found my passion and just never looked back. Went on to get my master's in international marketing, and I've been a marketer and a customer marketer at my core ever since. And it makes every day a different kind of day, right? Even when I'm struggling with the most challenging things, you know, that I've faced in my career with the pandemic and personal and professional issues, the passion that you have, finding that intersection between your gifts and your passions is critically important. And the second thing I'd say, I was really blessed, Matt, because I started with a really strong foundation from a stats and accounting standpoint, struggling through every single one of those accounting classes at William & Mary, and didn't find my love for the customer and for marketing until the end. And that strong financial foundation has really served me well in my career. Sort of, if you can, as a student, try to train yourself as that sort of combination left brain and right brain thinker, I think you'll find that will really serve you well in your career, because that creativity plus the precision that you get from classes or career time spent in data is really the key. It unlocks your future.
That's great. Thank you, Cindy. Here's a really good question, very interesting question. You just used the phrase, Cindy, love for the customer. How do you all bring customer knowledge and customer empathy into the decision-making processes and the creative processes in your companies? Kim, let's start with you.
First of all, there's some clear consumer needs that needs for convenience, as people are time starved and living busier and busier lives. So we have to make transactions seamless and put the guest in control where they can get in and out whenever they want. So we're doing things like shortly you can even order in advance before you show up, but you can pay as soon as you want on the Presto devices on the table. We've made delivery, and we're now rolling out rapid curbside pickup to add convenience. Another key need state is value. Particularly during a pandemic, a lot of people are hurting financially, so we've rolled out family meal deals for lower cost off-premise alternatives. Health celebrations, craving. We identify all of those through market research, and have a whole number of initiatives to design the guest experience to fulfill those needs. One of the things that was missing in the past, though, was our menu was designed based on how well individual items scored in guest satisfaction. And what we've learned, though, is we need to make it have targeted menu items to meet specific guest need states. Like, the healthy items, there are people who want healthy items and we should offer them. That's actually easy with seafood, which Harvard School of Public Health says is the healthiest thing you can eat. But something that you're designing for health should not be held to the same taste standards as something you're designing for the crave need state, or something for the crave need state simply can't compete on the nutritionals with something designed for the health need state. In the past, we designed all these menu items trying to maximize menu satisfaction scores. And we wound up with too many things that had butter and garlic and were sort of all the same because of that. And so now we're actually designing, we've created very specific need states we're targeting, and we're designing menu items to meet those need states. We've partnered with the Culinary Edge, which is a leading menu design consultancy in San Francisco. And so we're now beginning to, actually we rolled out the first couple items today, Kung Pao lobster and sesame soy salmon bowl actually just rolled today. It's the first of the two items. But by the time we get done with this, we are going to have specific menu items for all of the key need states we're targeting. And yet we'll wind up with a menu that's 40% smaller than where we were pre-crisis, which actually helps enormously in execution, as well as prep costs and things like that.
All right, thank you. Mark, how about you at your company? How do you bring consumer knowledge and consumer intimacy into the decision-making processes at Smucker?
Well, obviously, and each of us is in our roles as marketers has to be very knowledgeable about our consumers and the insights that make them tick. And there's obviously all different types. What I would, with Kim and Cindy, they're managing large brands, and they're primarily a branded house. We're a house of brands in that we own a lot of different brands. And so what we've learned is that brands have to stand for something. Today's consumer expects a brand to stand for something. It doesn't always have to be a cause. It doesn't necessarily have to be tied with a social cause or sustainability. Cafe Bustelo is a relatively small brand of very strong espresso, and it has roots in Cuba and Puerto Rico, and so it's a very Latin brand. So that brand stands for a celebration of Latin culture. All of the advertising is always, or the marketing is always bilingual. It will never be in English exclusively, and so the authenticity of that brand is very important to consumers. And it's interesting that non-Latino millennials are now the fastest growing consumers of that brand. So it's just one example, but brands have to stand for something, and it has to be meaningful and authentic to consumers. And so our job as marketers is to connect consumers to those brands through those means. And in doing so, we create an emotional bond that transcends just a like for the brand, but it's actually something that people will incorporate into their identity or their lifestyle.
That's terrific. Thank you. And Cindy, how about at your company? How do you bring customer knowledge and intimacy into the conversation?
Sure. I think, Matt, I think I've spent my entire life trying to bring customer knowledge and insights to the boardroom or to the business room table. Sometimes easier to do, sometimes harder to do than others, honestly. I will tell you that one thing that I've learned across roles at Walmart, where we created the global customer insights and analytics function to do just that, bring the voice of the customer to the table, and at Disney, and of course now at Bed Bath & Beyond. One of the things I've learned is, obviously you need to be deep into the data about your customers, and that's easier today with the tools that we have, as well as with the interactions we have with our customers, right, digitally. Literally within an hour, right, of engaging with a brand new customer, we can profile that customer based on what they bought, based on who they are, and be able to turn around remarketing efforts to them that are much more relevant and focused. But just the stats won't really get through. Right? I've just seen so many insights and analytics and researchers stand up in front of or be on a Zoom call in front of executives and tell them data, right? One stat after another. And one of the things that I really ask people to do is think about pairing your key stats with a story, right? Nothing brings a stat to life like a story. Right. I'll tell you, I was in a meeting earlier this week. We are building, as I mentioned, we're building our holiday plan and our contingency holiday plans. And what we're hearing from our customers, I shouldn't say that, what we're seeing in the data, and you can see it from Google, you can see it from Pinterest, you can see it even internally, that for the first time in a long time, right, gifts for your home are at the top of people's Christmas lists, right? It's what they've been searching for since April. 300% increases, right, in gifts for my home, Christmas ideas. And so we know that's a fact, right? But the other day we have these Zoom focus groups that we do with customers, right? So that we can actually talk to customers live. It's actually a fabulous tool if anybody ever wants to use it. It's amazing. And our executives can send in questions and the moderator is real time talking to customers. And we heard a customer say, thinking about what I want for Christmas this year, what's on the top of my list? A Ninja two-part, fryer cooker. I don't even know what the product name is. And she started laughing. She said, if my husband had ever given me a Ninja fryer cooker for Christmas, right, I would have sent him to the doghouse, right? But this year, right, it's different, right? She's been spending all this time in her home and she wants to come up with new creative ways to cook. So just coupling those two things, the stat about the 200 and 300% increases in customers that are looking for home gifts for home for holiday presents, and that story, that quote from the customer, right? Nobody in that room will ever forget that again.
That's really, really interesting on a lot of levels. I didn't know I had license to buy my wife a Ninja cooker. I don't know. Can I blame you if she gets mad at me?
You can always return it.
Yeah. Let me thank our panelists, Kim, Mark, and Cindy, for taking the time out of their very busy days to be here with us at the Homecoming and Home. This is like a masterclass, and we could go on for hours, and I promise we won't. But I want to wrap it up with a very quick question to each of you, and that is that if you think back on your time at William and Mary, think about how has your William and Mary education, your time at the school, prepared you for dealing with the challenges you face as a leader in an organization? What skills or resources or knowledges have you drawn on to help you get through? Kim, we'll start with you.
I commented earlier about the importance of figuring out what you're passionate about, and I would give William and Mary huge credit for helping me figure that out. I came to William and Mary thinking I wanted to be a psych major, and then quickly realized I was just not wired up like all the other people in Psych 101. Then tried economics, realized I was really good at that, and then wound up in business as a way to actually blend what I liked about psychology with what I liked about economics. I think you called it sequencing back then, but I sequenced in computer science. That was enormously helpful. You can actually write assembler language code, but that was enormously helpful in getting prepared for today's high-tech economy. I think William and Mary, importantly, I mean, it forces you to go broad. It forces you to try different things. The reality is, and by the way, there was a couple of particularly impactful courses, one of which was come up with a new product and then create a marketing campaign for it. We got a patent and sold the patent, and there was the General Motors Intercollegiate Marketing Competition, which, as an undergraduate school, we got to compete against a bunch of MBA schools and actually tied for first. And, that was probably, the reason I was subsequently able to get into Harvard Business School. But so William and Mary brought these remarkable experiences that helped me get on the right path to figure out what I was really good at, what I was really passionate about. And that really gave me the resilience to get through, a number of challenges along the way. And I would honestly say I got more out of William and Mary, I believe, than I did from, my MBA experience elsewhere. I really am hugely grateful to the school, and also thankful that my oldest daughter is a William and Mary alum. She's now and had a great experience there. She's now director of product management at Intuit for QuickBooks for small business. And so anyway, both of us have just feel incredibly grateful to the school for the remarkable experience and foundation it's given both of us.
It's great. Thank you. Mark, how about you?
I agree with Kim in the sense that William and Mary got me exposed to so many different ideas and people, and the diversity there was fantastic. Obviously, I grew up in a small town in Ohio. I wanted to run away from the family business for as long as I can in Ohio as well. So that's probably why I ended up overseas. But I mean, I majored in geology and I have a minor in English from William and Mary. And I will be honest, I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do when I got to college. And I think it's crazy that we, try to tell kids before they go to college, try to say, well, what is it you want to major in? They don't know. So the ability to explore many disciplines, in addition to my major and minor, I took multiple classes in the business school. I did philosophy, psychology, religion. The whole liberal arts thing was very unique, and even music. I did a little tiny bit of music as well, foreign language, all those things. So that education exposes us to so many ideas, and ultimately, if you're going to pick a major, but after you get out of college, it just broadens us as people. And I think that's what was so unique about that education. That's great. Thank you. And how about you, Cindy?
Yeah, what a great question to end with, Matt. It really takes me back fondly to my years at William and Mary. I'd say two things that I'm changed by that experience so many years ago. One, courage. I mean, as a very young person, William Mary surrounded me with the support to be bold enough, right? To be courageous enough to change my major for semester senior year, right? To pivot to a broader business degree so that I could go on and study my passion in marketing. I mean, I sometimes wonder how different my life would be, right? If I hadn't had the courage to do that. And secondly, curiosity. I mean, I think one of the things that you were allowed to be at William and Mary was curious about the world and curious about each other and about different aspects of of academics. And I hope that I hold on to the courage and curiosity that I got at the campus when I was there. I think so. I think the people that work with me would tell you that I'm both pretty bold and pretty curious still, which have been good traits to hold on to. I will tell you, I consider it a real pleasure to continue to be able to serve the school and try to give back. I enjoy every minute of the Mason School of Business board that I have a chance to be part of, and the annual Women's Leadership Summit. I mean, just staying connected with the young people that are coming through the school today, which I don't think I could have ever competed with, is a really rewarding experience. I appreciate it very much.
Well, thank you all. And I've dismally failed in my job as a moderator and gone a couple minutes over, but it's been incredibly worth it. So Cindy Davis, Mark Smucker, Kim Lopdrup, thanks so much for taking the time to share your insights and your wisdom with us. I know we got a ton out of it, and I could have gone another, probably 4 or 5 hours, but I promise I won't. So thank you so much for the time. Thanks for giving back to the school the way you have. And to everybody online, thank you so much for joining the conversation. Have a great remainder of homecoming at home. And hopefully next year we'll be able to do this in person in Williamsburg. But thanks so much to all of you for being here and sharing your insights. Have a great day.
Pleasure.
Thank you.